Okay, lovely. So I've called this talk Loving Oneself for the Benefit of All Beings. Okay? So I'll say a little bit about my aspects of my past. So I used to be a revolutionary Marxist. I started at a very, very young age. I joined a revolutionary political party in London when I was 16 years old. I was very young. And I was outraged. I was shocked when I learnt about world poverty, and I learnt about 800 million people being on the brink of starvation in the world, and there being enough food to feed every single mouth in the world since the end of the Second World War. I could not, my mind, my heart could not understand, could not accept that brutal fact. That was a major sort of motivation for me for getting involved in Marxism and socialism, etc. But as I'm sure you all know from your own experience, it's quite easy for our innocent and our pure motives to become less than innocent and to become impure. So my motives are really, really positive, actually. I did want to live in a world that was basically a lot better, where more people had an opportunity to grow and develop and to thrive and generally be happy. But all that kind of activism, I was very active. I'm talking about giving at least 4 hours a day, every day, to something related to Marxist education, agitation or organising. Yes? I went on many demonstrations and protests, got arrested once on one particular protest. But so much of that sort of good energy, good intentions became filled with anger. It's very, very easy to start to hate people who didn't agree with me, to hate the system, to hate the rich people, to hate middle class people. It was just so easy for all that youthful and beautiful enthusiasm to turn a bit nasty. And I once read that in the political party I was involved with, because it's so full time, it becomes your kind of everything. Your social life, your personal life, to some extent your psychological life, even your sexual life. It becomes kind of everything. It's like, it's almost totalitarian. It becomes, your whole life, your friends, etc. I once read that on average people spent 2.5 years in the party I was in. I stayed for 4 years. I thought, that's great, 4 years is not bad compared to 2.5. Okay? But I got, it ended for me at the age of 20. Ended at 20. Didn't start at the age of 20. It was like, I had a severe kind of breakdown and kind of crisis. It wasn't to do with politics, it was just to do with mental illness and to do with my personal relationships, especially with one particular friend. People burn out, yes? I'm sure you know it from your own personal experience and your observations of other people who basically have very good intentions and want to contribute to the betterment of other people, maybe the environment and animals, but it's just so easy for things to turn sour. Okay, that's the main point I want to draw there. Well, then afterwards, when I graduated from, well, it was then called a polytechnic, it's now a university. I studied social sciences. by that stage I'd started meditating. I wasn't particularly interested in my subject for the first 2 years. I thought it was all just theoretical rubbish. I just thought it was just abstract. And then in the last year I began to connect with it as I focused more on mental health. And I particularly chose a module called Welfare in Action, that involved doing some voluntary work anywhere you like. I chose a mental health centre, and then write a report, basically looking at the organisation and looking at your contribution within the organisation. I did that deliberately because I thought it would help me to get a job, and it did. I got a job as I don't think we have this in Turkey, as a residential social worker. Basically, I worked with people with, the polite language is mental health difficulty. Learning disabilities. It's mental handicap is the old name. So it was very, very practical. You're going for walks with people. You might need to take people to the toilet, cook with them maybe, spend a bit of time with them, maybe dance with them. I used to organise sort of dance sort of sessions with clients and staff. But I was still very young then, 22, maybe 23. And again, in less than 2.5 years, I was burnt out. If we're not really, really careful, A, we can get burnt out. B, worse than that, you can end up hating the people you're supposed to be caring for. I'm sorry to say, I'm sure there's one or two nods of recognition. Yes, our good intentions can turn really very bad indeed. You can get disillusioned. You can hate the person or resent the person you're, caring for. It can be your mum. It doesn't have to be someone you're, not part of your job. It could just be, you're absolutely fed up of looking after your mum or looking after your husband's bad back or whatever it might be. So this area of love, self-care, nourishment, sustainability is absolutely crucial. So I thought it would make a worthwhile and valuable theme for people who identify as activists of one kind or another. I thought it would be a useful area. Yes, people burn out very, very easily. It just occurs to me, for example, I wouldn't call this activism, but in the US, for example, according to one study, what percentage of vegetarians continue being vegetarian after, let's say, 10 years? It's only 25%. That's 75%. I don't know what the word is. 75% do not continue. So if you can imagine, if our, let's say, our vegetarianism, if we're vegetarians, was fairly healthy and we generally enjoyed it, that fallout rate would maybe drop to 50 or 60, would drop a lot. So if we do want to make a contribution to the lives of other individuals, groups of individuals, or to society and the world at large, I think it's very, very important and highly intelligent to look at this whole area around nourishment and self-love. I think that's absolutely crucial. It's also important to me now because I'm a mindfulness trainer, a meditation teacher, a Buddhist teacher, and I'm doing it mainly alone. Okay, so you guys come to me, and if I was in a very bad mood, you wouldn't be very impressed. Yes, you're looking for something. You're looking at the teacher, and when I am in a bad mood, that's very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. You're in an irritable state, and the people who want something from you. They want this teaching or that teaching, or they want some inspiration or want to relax, etc. It's quite uncomfortable. So it's still very, very true. I need to take care of my own practice, my own mind, my own heart. Yes? If that's in order, I can genuinely sort of be here for who's in the room. You, just be here, be present. Be sort of mindfully and hopefully lovingly present. In one Buddhist tradition, there's an incredibly beautiful ideal called the Bodhisattva ideal. The Bodhisattva ideal. Maybe one or two people have heard of this phrase. And the ideal is that you are dedicated to awakening, you're dedicated to enlightenment for the sake or the benefit of all sentient beings. It's not just for your own particular welfare and happiness. It is, but we are part of the whole. We're part of the word all. You can imagine. All's a very, very big word, isn't it? There are 7.4 billion people, and I don't know how many billions of animals and insects there are in the world either. They're also beings. That's a tall responsibility, isn't it? It's a very, very tall ideal. So we need to be rich. We need to be, on the whole, emotionally positive and inspired to keep going. Basically, yes. We can all, we can all be inspired for 1 week. We can probably manage 1 week. Even that could be very difficult for many people. Maybe one day might be hard enough for many. But what about 1 year, or 12 years, or 40 years? Yeah? I mean, life isn't a 100-metre sprint. It's more like, a 26-mile marathon. There needs to be sort of skill and adjustment and stamina if we want, as it were, to be sustained or to be sustainable in the long run. And my teacher, Bhante Sangharakshita, makes some excellent points for the person who aspires to be a bodhisattva, aspires to the bodhisattva ideal, to be effectively preoccupied with the welfare, the needs, and the betterment of other people. We can all give, as I've said. We're very good at giving, maybe for a day or two or a week, etc. But if we're not careful, as I've mentioned, our giving can turn sour. Our giving can be compromised by other kind of needs or shortcomings. A desire for approval, for example. Yes, you might really want their approval. You want them to say you're a good girl because you've just given that project some money. Yes, the good girl syndrome, or you're a good boy. Okay, nothing wrong with that. It's just a bit limited. It's pregnant with ill will. If you don't get your acknowledgement, you can turn resentful. Sangharakshita, Bhante says this: there is in fact only one need of one's own that has to be fulfilled before one can preoccupy oneself effectively with the needs of others. And it is not a physical or a material need, but simply a matter of emotional positivity and security. We need to appreciate our own worth and feel that it is appreciated by others, to love ourselves and feel that we are loved by others. I'm going to read that again. There is in fact only one need of one's own that has to be fulfilled before one can preoccupy oneself effectively with the needs of others. And it is not a physical or material need, but simply a matter of emotional positivity and security. We need to appreciate our own worth and feel that it is appreciated by others, to love ourselves and feel that we are loved by others. Absolutely crucial. So if we are in that really positive position of appreciating our own worth, of loving ourselves, and sensing that our worth is appreciated by others and that other people love us, we're in an incredibly rich and powerful position to effectively commit ourselves to the welfare of other people or other animals. Well, I'm sure that we would all agree that for many people, maybe even most people, that is not easy. Yes, many of us struggle with thoughts and sensations of worthlessness, of what we could call inner poverty, a lack of appreciation and respect for ourselves. Yes, it's very, very widespread in the teachings that I do here. One of the main issues, or the main things I'm encouraging again and again and again and again, is for people to develop a healthy relationship with their own experience, with their own minds and hearts and their bodies. Yes, that's a major, major theme that I stress again and again and again and again, as well as the other major theme I stress is forgiveness, forgiving other people and ourselves. Okay, I'm going to assume that you agree with me that it's difficult for many people. Maybe it's very difficult for you listening to me right now. Maybe you find it difficult. Okay, how? We probably all agree it's a wonderful thing if you love yourself and feel that you're loved by others. You probably agree with me that it's wonderful if we can contribute to the welfare and benefit of all beings. Okay, brilliant theory, isn't it? Fabulous theory. Okay, well, how can we actually develop and feel this love and this enrichment? So I'm going to offer you 6 points that you may find helpful. Hopefully you'll find helpful. The first point is take responsibility for it. Not loving ourselves much is an activity. It's something that we're doing. Yes, we're taking part in the activity of not loving ourselves and not appreciating ourselves, not valuing ourselves perhaps so much. Yes, we need to be honest with ourselves. If that's what we're doing, we have to give up the blame game. It doesn't help anybody anyway. Even if you say, yeah, no, it's his fault, it's her fault. It was I don't know. It was heterosexual men's fault, or it was men's fault, or it was the government. It was my mum. There's a good blame object. You know, it's my family. It's my country. It's a political system. It's very, very easy to blame. And I'm not saying, these conditions aren't very important, but we can take responsibility. If we don't take responsibility, the main person who suffers is us. So if it is something that you struggle with, a lack of self-love, a lack of self-appreciation, it's something we can take seriously and make it an important part of our life to transform. We can give it priority. This is a very important part of my life. you've done that all, I would say, all of you here, because you've just turned up to this workshop, and I take it that at least to some extent that you do take this point seriously. The second point is make a practice of noticing and focusing on the good in your life, on the blessings in your life. Okay? It's so tempting to focus on lack. It's so tempting to focus on what I don't have, whether it's money, a job, a certain government, a certain bias in the culture. It's just so easy to see that the glass is half empty. But there is lots and lots of good in our life, and gratitude, the conscious cultivation of gratitude, is a fantastic way of promoting healing and happiness. Yes, research, at least some research, suggests that expressing your gratitude is quite a quick way of becoming happy. Years ago, I was seeing a counsellor in London, like a therapist in London, and he suggested, because I was always focusing on, complaints and problems and difficulties. I was very good at that. I think many people are very good at that. It seems to be a widespread hobby. But he said, well, why don't you do the opposite? Why don't you keep a diary and write something positive in it? I thought, what a brilliant idea. What an interesting idea. I thought that didn't occur to me before then. And from that moment on, for about 10 years, I kept a positive diary. I would just write something positive from the day, whether it's someone's smile or a hug I enjoyed, or some eye contact, or a meaningful conversation I had. I just made a note. And it's a very lovely way to cultivate and to experience positive emotion. Is noticing it, actively training the mind to notice beauty and to notice positive experiences and qualities within you and in your environment. It's an excellent training point. Something else I did much more recently. I think I did it. I've done it three times. I think twice in English and once in Turkish. Just on my Facebook wall, just before I went to bed, I gave myself a little challenge to write down 3 things I was grateful from the day. And it's a 10-day challenge. I was quite amazed by people who started following me. Some people affected quite a lot, quite deeply, from far away, from outside Turkey as well. I was struck by how strongly some people were affected. Really quite sort of strong heart connections seem to have been evoked. I was very touched by that. So I would very much encourage a gratitude practice. Yes, writing is probably the strongest way of doing it, and also actually expressing do you express your gratitude to people? From 8 years ago, from 8 weeks ago, from today. It's very, very bad psychology if we take people for granted. Of course they know. This is terrible, terrible psychology. Of course she knows I love her. It's just, there's no of course in that sentence. Hardly anybody would complain if somebody tells them they love them on a regular basis. Maybe, you might occasionally get bored, it's possible. But generally speaking, we do like to be either told or shown very clearly that we are valued and appreciated and loved. So please, I hope you take that to heart. You could even do your own 10-day gratitude challenge on Facebook, see what happens. Have some fun maybe. Okay, my third point, so it's a bit more, I'm going to use a piece of jargon, but I'm sure you've all heard this jargon word, is have confidence in the law of karma. Have confidence in the law of karma. Karma is, I think, both a Sanskrit and a Pali word, if I'm not mistaken. Pardon me, it's a Sanskrit word. Just work that out. It's a Sanskrit word. Karma just means action. That's all it means. Vipaka means fruit. The fruit of action. The consequences of action. So the basic view or understanding is that actions have consequences. Yeah? If our intentions are mainly positive and there's a little bit of wisdom involved, an action, a positive action, will have positive results. If our intentions are on the whole harmful or negative, and there isn't very much understanding involved, the consequences will be painful for ourselves and others. So the main point I'm trying to draw out here is in order to, for example, to be generous or to be bold, we don't have to feel very confident. We don't have to have lots of love in us already. If we act with some good intentions, the confidence and the love can come a bit later. And how we behave has an effect on our consciousness. Our consciousness has an effect on how we behave. It's a circle, it's a loop. So if you act with good intention, maybe you're at a meeting or you're having a meal at a restaurant and you hear views and ideas that you find quite offensive or very unpleasant or cruel, etc. It's possible that you're a bit scared. You want to say something, you want to speak up, you want to speak up for your values, but you're a bit, as I say, you're a bit scared. There's anxiety present. Well, that's okay. We don't have to be fearless in order to act in a brave way. That's the definition of courage, is acting despite the fear. It's almost pretending that you're not afraid, but you're acting. The fear isn't stopping you. So we can make use of this fact. If we behave, let's say, 50 times or 100 times as if we're not afraid, but that when there is fear present, gradually our courage will strengthen, and who knows, hopefully we'll become a little bit more confident and a little bit more fearless. Yes, so my main point is that actions, our outward action, does have an effect on our inner experience. We don't have to be in a super brilliant state to perform a positive action. Yes, if somebody is hungry or starving in front of us, we don't have to feel like giving in order to give. The main thing is that someone's actual need is met. We have one doctor in the room. I'm sure you don't feel like going to work every single day. You probably get a bit sick of it sometimes. And another complaint. I've only had 60 complaints today. Does anyone have any good news? No one comes to the doctor and says, Doctor, I'm feeling very healthy today. Do you have any advice for me? No one. We don't really behave like that, do we? We go with complaints. Now, whether a doctor feels like waking up in the morning and helping humanity is a little bit irrelevant compared to the help they can give. Hopefully, in the process of that day and after your 10th patient, maybe something might begin to open in your heart. You're behaving kindly, and behaving kindly can have an effect on our consciousness. Yeah? So the fundamental point was we can have confidence in the law of karma. The positive actions or positive intentions create positive results. Negative intentions, like a desire to show off, a desire to hurt, a desire to look good, these can create not positive results. If your motivations aren't especially positive, it can have an unhelpful result. We can come back to that later in the questions if you like. The fourth point is when people say good things about you, positive things about you, listen to them. Yeah? Take them seriously. Take these words, these compliments, this positive feedback. Take it seriously. Take it to heart. You don't have to pretend it's not true. You don't have to say, you don't have to negate it. You don't have to say, but I'm rubbish at something else. That's not what the person said. The person said that you are a brilliant host. That's what they said. You're a brilliant host. They didn't say you make rubbish tea. They didn't say that. They said you're a brilliant host. Yes, we can sort of breathe in that compliment. We can sort of take it in and learn to be open to people's positive comments. You can even write them down. If people write things like this in emails, you could even create yourself, a little folder, or write them down in a book, so that occasionally I've done it. Occasionally you reread people's comments. What's to stop you if your heart was really touched when somebody said something very appreciative about you? Why can't your heart be touched 100 times about exactly the same sentence, exactly the same paragraph? We just need to give it some attention and to maintain a kind of fresh mind, an open heart. So do take what people say seriously, the good things at least, or in particular perhaps. We can also learn from negative feedback too. That's also very important. But here I'm stressing the compliments and the praise that other people share about us. The fifth point I've got is kind of the opposite to that. And I'm going to use some more Buddhist jargon. And it's to practice what's called rejoicing in merits. Rejoicing in merits. It's a bit of jargon. I'm going to explain the jargon. In simple terms, it means making a special point of noticing other people's positive, skillful and beautiful qualities and behaviours, and giving expression to it in writing or in speech. And it's a very powerful practice. It's a very rich and beautiful practice. Actually, why not rejoice in the merits? Merit just means positive quality here. Positive quality. Rejoicing in people's merits is a fabulous way of affirming life. Yes, many people, as we've just been talking, don't properly value themselves. It's so easy to have a limited and biased view of oneself that's quite negative. And when we rejoice in people's positive qualities to their face, in a text message, in an email, on Skype, it's a fabulous way. It's a beautiful way of connecting with people in an atmosphere of appreciation and delight. And I'd like to read a very beautiful paragraph about rejoicing in merits by my friend Ratnagosha. He says this, and I love this paragraph. What you send out into the world is what comes back to you. We create the world we live in. We create the atmosphere that surrounds us. If we rejoice in the merits of others, even only within the privacy of our own hearts, that rejoicing will have an effect on how we interact with others and will influence how others perceive us and relate to us. If we rejoice in others, our own lives will be appreciably enhanced. I think that's a very beautiful, positive and true statement. So it's about training our eyes. We're training our eyes, training our attention to actively looking for what is good in this woman, what is good in this man, yes, what is good in this person. It's a fabulous thing to do. It's a very, very positive, very, very fabulous thing to do. People aren't used to it very often. People are not used to it. And people can get quite uncomfortable too. But that's a good problem. That's a positive problem. Let them get uncomfortable and get used to it, basically. It can challenge, rejoicing in merits, can really challenge our limited and fixed views. Yes, if you have a little idea of poor little me, poor little woman, a little bit of a stupid little me, and someone says, actually, I really do not see you like that. You're obviously a very brave woman. I've seen you do this, this, and this over the last 6 years. You've got a great deal of stamina, and I love the way you respond, to your family. I love the way that you always want to take your awareness a lot more deeper. And you've got a fabulous smile. It just lifts my heart. Who doesn't want to hear something like that? It can sort of cut through or challenge limited views of oneself or limited views of other people. My last point, and I love making this point, most of the time when I give a talk, I make this point, basically, which is cultivate emotional nourishment and spiritual inspiration. Cultivate emotional nourishment and spiritual inspiration. What makes you feel vital? What really brings you alive? Yeah? It can be completely unique for you. I'm not talking about what brings me to life. I'm not talking about what makes me feel, really alive, vibrant. It's you. Maybe you love reading books on archetypal psychology. That really, really brings you alive. Maybe you love meeting your friends and having some quality time together. Maybe you love doing yoga, for example. You love swimming. Yeah, maybe you love hill walking. Maybe you love being in nature. Maybe you love meditation. Maybe you love reading novels. Maybe you love doing absolutely nothing. You just love sitting on the couch looking at the wall, and somehow that really brings you alive. Maybe that really promotes quite a strong sense of intimacy with life, just doing nothing. Yeah? How can you keep your love of your values and your principles, either as just good people or as activists, really alive and fresh. Yeah, we need inspiration, we need encouragement. I need encouragement, I need inspiration. Yeah, what really, what is it that really, wakes you up and sort of motivates you and inspires you? Yeah, give that respect. It could be playing the piano. It's not, it's not complicated stuff here. It's just a matter of really seeing it, respecting it, and making time for it. It's not a luxury. It's not a luxury item. As I said earlier, this is a 26-mile race. It's not, a 100-metre sprint. We can all sprint 100 metres and then we're dead. That's the end of it. Forget it. But life doesn't end there. It just it's just an unfolding process. Now this is crucial. Okay, it's crucial in terms of like the longer term vision. But as we know, our mental states are not private property. You do not own your mind. You do not. Your mental states don't just affect you. When you're feeling in a really resentful, impatient, irritable mood, what would you communicate? You'll be communicating resentment, irritability, and a bad mood. Yes, you can't help it. What is in our minds and in our hearts inevitably just spreads. If you're panicking, have you noticed that panic spreads? It just spreads. But have you noticed that when somebody smiles at you in a very beautiful way, that spreads too? Have you noticed this? Have you noticed when somebody's joyful, it spreads? Or somebody is trusting, it just spreads. It all just spreads. All our mental states, all our emotions just spread. Now that's a responsibility. Now I completely trust that none of you want to spread panic, alarm, irritation, impatience and hatred. None of you. I completely trust that you're basically good people and you want to spread the positive, if you like, or love, or kindness. I'm taking that completely for granted. Yes? So it's really, really important that we do protect and nurture the loving mind, the loving heart. Because it affects everything that we do. Everything. It can only affect everything that we do, whether it's writing an email, looking at somebody, walking with somebody, going shopping, whatever. Yes, it's contagious. So it's extremely important. These points I'm making, and the general points I'm making, the specific points I'm making, are really, really important because it just has an effect. And I completely trust that you all want to have a skillful and a positive effect on yourself and other people. So I'd like to end this little talk by once again reading that quote from Sangharakshita I started with. So he said, "There is in fact only one need of one's own that has to be fulfilled before one can preoccupy oneself effectively with the needs of others. And it is not a physical or material need, but simply a matter of emotional positivity and security. We need to appreciate our own worth and feel that it is appreciated by others, to love ourselves and feel that we are loved by others."